learned about Zeus Network is they are demonic. All the contestants' names on this show, even mine, trace back to Greek mythology. I'm an avid reader, so that sparked my interest right there. They changed my name on the show to Pied Piper, which is like some...
To what?
Pied Piper.
What is that?
Which is, like a medieval folklore type of thing, and it's about a dude that leads 120 kids to their death. You know, yeah, bro, it's some sick demonic stuff, bro, that they into, and I can't rock with that.
And they gave you that name?
At all. Yeah, they gave me that name. Like everybody's name on the show traces back to Greek mythology. They got a Greek mythology name, some devilish stuff, bro.
Why couldn't you have your own name?
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah. That's some crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie.
I know they behind the scenes they doing weird stuff.
But you think like
I don't want to speak on that on camera, but I know behind the scenes they doing some weird stuff. They trying to get me to crash out. They trying to play psych games. They got people following me, watching me.
Really?
Yeah,
just
bro.
From being on the show?
Yeah, bro, definitely. I know for a fact. Reaching out to females that I used to fornicate with and they're telling you like somebody told me, somebody reached out. Yeah, for sure. And I know 110% fact they had somebody watching me, for sure.
Why don't you run around with security?
I don't need a security. I got.
Zeus Network sacrifice members of Erica Mena show.
Support. I feel like my life is in jeopardy. 2 people that were on Zeus Network are now deceased. Raina Dunlap was on her way to a Baddies audition and was found deceased inside of a abandoned building. Jay Hefner, 1 month after filming with Zeus Network, was mysteriously deceased.
The family of Raina Dunlap is asking for answers after she was recently found deceased in an abandoned home in Cleveland, Ohio. So Raina has always had a huge social media presence for years on Twitter and Instagram. So her family is saying that recently she may have been in Cleveland while they were filming Baddies.
Was filming in Cleveland. They were going to clubs that were very close to the locations where she was purchasing stuff. She wanted to be on this show. She knew some of the cast members of Baddies. She had met Natalie Nunn before. She had Taziki on her lives that she used to either host on Twitter or Instagram. She knew.
Why is Zeus Network not saying anything about Raina Dunlap or Jay Hefner? I'm not about to be the third person, so I'm gonna speak out on this. Somebody's definitely been following me. Mysterious stuff has been happening. Somebody mysteriously drove their car through my living room.
Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Kol Halal, YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. That's giving all praise to the Most High, in the name of His only begotten Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to our teachers, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Shalom, 244,000. And real quick, I want to go into this individual, this character, Aaron the Plumber, as he goes by, okay, or Mr. You Not Qualified. All right, this is a guy that was he originally appeared on the Pop the Balloon video. You know, he got, you know, some, the video went viral and he got all this kind of fame, you know, from being on that show. And he was recently put on that show with Erica Mena, okay, as you've seen in the post-production. And, you know, that show was wicked as hell, man. That woman, Erica Mena, is a complete demon. You know, there's many pictures and videos of her screaming at the top of her lungs. She got this big old vein coming down her forehead. Look like a total monster, man. It's a complete demon. Okay, but you know, this individual was on that show, and that show was wicked as hell. Obviously I haven't watched it, but you've seen clips, and there every clip you've seen, this guy was fighting. He was fighting Edomites, Jakes, trannies. He was fighting everybody, man. Okay, but in being on that show from Zeus Network, which is Zeus goes into a false Grecian god, okay, a false Greek deity. All right, but that's a whole network, where they put all these jakes on and let them, act like complete monkeys and fools, and just making a fool of themselves on these shows. But in that particular show, Erica Mena, she was looking for love from men and women. She said she's bi, okay. She says she's looking for love from men and women, which is completely wickedness, man. All right, but this is the world that we're in. This is what we got to deal with while we're in the society until the Lord destroys this place. But you heard him talking about how these particular people that was on the show with him are getting unalived. All right, but one thing I thought was interesting was you see the shirt that he's wearing right here. Okay, this is as he's exposing this stuff. He's wearing a shirt. Now on his shirt, it shows Jake going from chattel slavery to being a plantationer to like the disco Jakes, to Jake wearing the fitted caps, to ultimately Jake being crowned kings with garments with fringes on them. All right, so in some way, form, or fashion, he knows that he's an Hebrew Israelite. Whether somebody told him, whether he already knew, but some way, somehow, he came into the knowledge of being a Hebrew Israelite. As you see right here on the screen, this right here is a very known Israelite image, okay? Because it shows the last evolution of Jake, being in their glory, okay, with the beards, the fringes, the whole nine. Now, whether this individual, Aaron the plumber, identifies as a Hebrew Israelite or not, that's neither here nor there. But the fact that he had that shirt on shows you that when Jakes go into this world, go into that world, man, trying to make some of themselves, they find out how wicked it is, how demonic it is, and that ultimately leads them back to Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI if they be of the elect, if they be of the elect, But let's grab a few precepts. I don't want to make this too long. It says, let's go right here. It says, Exodus chapter 34, verse 12, it says, take heed to thyself, lest thou make an covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. And this is what these Jake's been doing. They've been making covenants with these heathens, man. Okay, to go on that show, you had to sign a contract, which that's a covenant. I was watching the video earlier today with the elder Ariala from the Dallas camp, and he was going into how Charleston White was talking about the 501c3s and the 501c4s, all right, and how these people that take a 501c3 pretty much they sold out. And you're going to have a lot of that amongst our people. That happened in the ancient world. It's going to happen. It's happening again today. A lot of these camp leaders like the IUIC, the ISUPK, these major camps that have a 501c3, they're sellouts. They make covenants with the heathen. Scripture says you should not make any covenants with the heathen. Okay? But reading on, it says, but ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other god or power, for the Lord Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power. So you got to come back to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, okay? Because he is a jealous power. The Most High will get pissed off and kill you behind worshiping other gods, okay? It says, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a whoring after their gods. And that's what happens when you go on that Zeus network. Go on there and they go on a whoring after a false god. You may think that you're just going on the show. No, you're making a covenant to a heathen, a false god, a false deity, man. And there's a punishment for that. There's a reward for that, man. All right, you don't want to piss the Lord off to where he got to kill you because you out here thinking you chasing fame, but you're really chasing a false deity, as you've seen in the post production. Okay, it says, and do sacrifice. It says, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and no one call thee. It's like, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. You see, and that's what Jake is doing. They're actually making sacrifices and covenants with these false gods. It says, thou shalt, and thou take of their daughters and unto thy sons, and their daughters to go a whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a whoring after their gods. And that's what happens when you make a covenant with these heathens. You eventually go to selling out. That's why you got Dwayne Wade. He done turned his damn son into a mo. to stay in that realm, to stay in that limelight. And that's what people will do, just to have some type of power on this side, man. Okay, and that's completely wicked, man. That's completely wicked, man. All right, let's go over here. It says 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse, I'll just get right to the point. It says verse 5, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many. Okay, so that's why we always ask people, when they say God, 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 what God do you serve? Okay, what God are you talking about? That's why when Moses, when Moses had to, got that enlightenment to go, to speak to Pharaoh and his people and warn his people, he said, what name shall I tell them? So what God do you serve? Because a nigga say God all day long, but don't know the true name of the Most High. Jake be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old in the Christian church and still don't know the name of the Most High God. And if you don't know, the Most High God's name is Yahawah. His son's name is YAHAWASHI. Okay, we've done many videos on that. It says, but to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom all are all things, and we in him. And one Lord, Yahawashi HaMashiach, by whom all are things, by whom are all things, by we, and we by him. So it's early, so bear with me. But yeah, so that's the point, There's only one God, man. Now let's go over here, and let's go to 2 Maccabees. All right. Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 1. Oh, it's chapter 4. 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 15. It says, I'll just get right to the point. All this is good going into the Grecian captivity. Jake was worshiping and doing unto the ways of the Grecians. Okay, it says, verse 15, not setting by the honors of their, 2 Maccabees chapter 4 verse 15, not setting by the honors of their father, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. And this is what Jake was doing. They was liking the glory of the Grecians most of all. Let me go up. It says verse 13, now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners. This is why you got trannies on that damn show, because they're doing heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, after the game of discus called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. And this is what Jake was doing. This is why you see Jake going to them colleges and they, where they getting branded, with those Greek characters and stuff, man. Okay, it's complete wickedness. But it says, by reason thereof, sore calamity came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. And this is the problem with Jakes now. They want to be like the heathen. Okay? They following after the heathen, man. Okay? Complete wickedness. It's just completely gone. So the Lord's going to have to destroy the majority of our people here, man. All right? It says, for it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of the Most High, but the time following shall declare these things. And this is what Jake gonna find out. This is why people that was on that show are all of a sudden, getting found dead. They're getting sacrificed. Okay, you sold out to the devil, and now this devil, he requires your soul. And now you got this guy Aaron the Plumber. He's all over the internet now, professing that people are following him and shit. Yeah, because they're trying to take you out too, man. And that's why the scripture says, never trust thine enemy. Okay, follow not the ways of the heathen. Okay, the traditions of the heathen. Let's go to 1 Maccabees. Let's go to 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 41. Okay, I'm just making these quick points real quick. It says 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. And this is what they ultimately want, everybody to be one people. Okay, they don't want you worshiping Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and keep the commandments. They want you to go, and worship their gods. It says, and everyone shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. And we, here we are, here it is Thursday. We're, coming into the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and you got majority of people out there, they don't even know what the Feast of Unleavened Bread is. Okay, so they're profaning the Sabbaths and these high holy days. It says, for the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judea, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And that's this same shit happening again today. It says, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, the feast days. It says, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And this is what happened to our people already. They have forgotten the laws and the ordinances of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay. Let me see. I don't know if I grabbed this yet. I think I did. Okay, hold on. Let me grab this. Okay, because this is First Chronicles chapter 16, verse 25. It says, "For great is Yahawah and greatly to be praised. He also is to be feared above all gods." So to hell with Zeus. All right. There's only one true God, and that's Yahawah Yahawashai. Okay, the God of the Holy Bible. It says, "For all the gods of the people are idols, but the Lord Yahawah made the heavens." You see, so all the gods of these other nations are idols. Okay, so you take, cleaving unto these idols, you're only doing yourself a disservice. Okay, glory and honor all in His presence, strength and gladness are in His place. Give unto the Lord, ye kindreds of the people. Give unto Yahawah glory and strength. You're not supposed to give no other God glory and strength, man. The Lord is a jealous power. He will kill you for that, man. And that's why those individuals are getting killed. One of the guys he was talking about that got found missing, he ended up getting shot trying to fight for his cousin or protect his cousin. But ultimately it was the judgment of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. It says, verse 14, "He is Yahawah our power. His judgments are in all the earth." Okay, so yeah, you can't escape the judgments of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. That's why the best thing we can do is to submit and serve Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, let me grab this too. It says Matthew chapter 16 verse 24. It says, and then said Yahushua unto his disciples, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." And that's what we had to do. We had to deny ourselves. We couldn't just do what we want to do anymore. We all had our own dreams and aspirations. We wanted to be this and that in the world. And once you came into Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, when I speak for myself, bro, when I was in the world, I was trying to be this, that, and the third. And I found that shit was wicked, demonic. You got to sell out. You got to bend over the black couch. I said, oh, hell no. I don't get down like that. Okay, that goes against my creed. So what I had to do, I ended up leaving that and started seeking Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. But you can't do both. You can't try to be in this world and seek Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And that's why I pointed out the fact that Aaron the plumber, he had that shirt on, because somebody telling him or putting him on game to who the true God of the Bible is. And before I found the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, he introduced me to the devil. Okay. I know that shit is real. Okay, that whole selling your souls, blood and sacrifices and shit, that shit is real, bro. On the left-hand side, it says, "For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." That's what we've done. We lost our lives for Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's sake. It says, here's the point: "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" You see? "Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?" And that's why these individuals, they end up, they got to play ball. And that's why they want to kill this old boy, because they'll put you in that little limelight to try you out. And if you don't go with the program, they're going to try to put you to death. Want people follow him. Remember, we'll watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut, And then if you don't go according to their plans or what they want you to do, they'll blackball you. You ain't going to get no more roles. You ain't going to have no more opportunities. Like you had before. They'll shut all that down, man. And that's what that's why these guys that sold out in these camps, these major camps like IUIC with Bishop Nate and ISUBK, they sold out. They end up having to, keep playing ball, man. And once you stop playing ball, then you get blackballed, and then eventually they're trying to take your ass out. Okay, but that's the point, man. Just something quick I'm going to touch on in the spirit. I've been seeing this thing going all over the internet, and it's no coincidence. It's a lot for the noise, but it's no coincidence that all these things are happening. And those people are getting found dead and stuff like that. Well, these people are getting found dead and stuff because really when you go into it, you ain't just going on the show, bro. It ain't just about being on TV to be in any type of limelight, like that. To a certain degree, you gotta sell out. You gotta sell out, man. All right, and that's what people do, and they don't realize that they actually giving reverence to false gods. You think you just going on a show, but that show or that network is named Zeus. Okay, so they're actually dealing with false gods and deities. In that industry, man. All right, so be mindful of that. Watch out for that, man. That be something. Shalom from the